Welcome to today's video. The dude talking is Jan.
I don't have any hobbies actually. This isn't a hobby. This consumes my entire life. A hobby is something you do on the side. This is not a side project. I'd say eating is my hobby.
Okay, that being said, I'm building rides for my kids, and what I'm mainly using for that are building elements from Infento.
The aluminium profiles are practically identical to those that are widely used in the industry, but the black connecting elements are specifically designed to be used for DIY projects with a family. No drilling, no welding, no sharp edges, no harmful chemical substances. Similar to Lego, playing around with these elements also attracts adult DIY fans. Personally, I appreciate that I can take everything apart when the rides are becoming boring after some weeks. The space in my garage is limited and I don't have an endless budget. Once I overcame the investment into these building elements, the hobby hardly cost me extra money. Or I should better say, wouldn't cost me extra money if I didn't feel challenged to apply doubtful DIY gadgets. Today's ride is an ATV for my kids from 4 to 10 years. ATV stands for All-Terrain Vehicle. Here in Germany we are calling this also a quad, since it has 4 wheels. You may have seen offers for kid quads on eBay or Amazon from China, electrically or petrol driven. As the designation ATV implies, these vehicles are also suitable for off-road operations, so a full suspension, high ground clearance and knobby tires are essential. Alright, I think you have now seen enough of the quad in action. I will now guide you through the main design features. This is not a full DIY tutorial, but I hope it will help you to lead you into the right direction. The main drive. For the motor, I decided to use the electric drive that Infento puts into their biggest kit, which is called the Legion kit. By default, this motor unit delivers some 120 watts, which is okay for smaller kits. But I used a tweaked version with 350 watts and a 36 volt battery. That is ideal for my 8-year-old daughter, even if she drives with her brother or a friend. You may use as well the standard 24 volt Infento battery for the motor, but I use it only for the optional lights and horn. I installed a 36 volt battery from a Shimano e-bike, wrapped it into a ply of nice and shiny carbon weave and replaced the restricting Shimano battery management system by a free one from Ali. With 36 volt the motor runs much faster, but this huge e-bike battery is some 19 inches long. And its proper integration into the small frame required particular attention from the beginning. Now the battery hangs well protected underneath the central strut. The chassis. The motor is not fixed onto the rear swing, but to the frame. The power is transferred to the rear axle by a toothed belt. The rear axle is a rigid swing and it is held down by a single Infento shock absorber. Now you may wonder how the toothed belt is staying tensioned as the rear swing moves up and down when driving over bumps. The belt pulleys vary their distance, don't they? Well, you are right, they do. But not too much. If you pay attention that the motor axis and the rear axle and the swing axis are in one line at half suspension travels. These 3 points formate a shallow triangle that operates around its dead point. On the front axis, we find a double wishbone leverage. I used very inexpensive uniball joints from eBay, 15 euros for a set of 4. They allow a very compact package of suspension and steering. The uniball bearings have basically the same function as Infento's M8 rod ends. On the paper they are both specified with a maximum angle of 25 degrees, but the rod ends from Infento will not pivot by 25 degrees, unless you clamp them with slim bushings. Just the fixation with an M8 bolt will block it at around 15 degrees. The challenge with the front suspension is to allocate the steering gear in the right place, or the front wheels will change their direction as the wheels go up and down. For driving a curve, you have to turn in sharply. The steering ratio is deliberately chosen to be small, so that steering movements at full speed do not cause this vehicle to tip over so easily. Note that I have limited the suspension travel with stoppers, so that the steering column does not plow the ground in extreme cases. In fact, the suspension worked so effective that the kids didn't even need to lower their speed to drive up a low edge of the sidewalk. The shock absorber question. Let me anticipate your question, which shock absorbers I am using. I must confess, the ones you see here ran out of production, and so far I was unlucky in finding a reasonably priced substitute. On the internet there are a couple of retail mountain bike shock absorbers for sale that use compressed air instead of springs, and they mostly provide adjustable damping. They are really cool, but are quite pricey. Here you see some very cheap Chinese mountain bike shock absorbers that I bought from Ali. But I found their springs were much too hard, and inside they are just a greased telescope, but they don't provide any hydraulic damping at all. Without damping, the ride will undoubtedly bounce up and down all the time. In terms of transportation, hydraulic shock absorbers are mostly considered as dangerous goods due to their compressed nitrogen reservoir. Therefore, they are not a typical good that can be shipped around the world by air freight. Anyway, if you want to start searching the internet by yourself, here is a basis to start from. My shocks are 215 mm in length. They have some 50 to 60 mm of spring travel. Their springs wire is 6 mm and it has 8.5 functional windings, leading to a spring rate of 24 newtons per millimeter or 138 pounds per inch. Ideally, they feature a threaded spring plate that allows you to adjust the spring preload or even to replace the entire spring by a softer one. Alternative springs can also be purchased separately. There are many online spring shops that stock endless variations. In case you find a good alternative for a shock absorber, please let me know and I will make the Infento community aware of your finding. The wheels. I already introduced these kart wheels with rain tires on my go-kart and the Wheeloader project part 4. And I don't want to bore you to death reiterating what it takes to make them usable for Infento. Leaves me only to say, for me, they are by far the greatest custom part of all. Great look, great traction and very tough. Speaking of traction, like on the Great Roll models, a differential is absent on this quad as well. And I can confirm this is just what it takes, especially for these slippery conditions. Furthermore, the rear axis is very simple and the single brake disc acts on both wheels. Ergonomics. Before I start building, I roughly determine the measurements for the position of the feet, hands, buttocks and possibly the back of the sitting child. This commonly works out perfectly, as you can see here. Is there anything cooler than cruising through the neighborhood with your best friend on the pillion seat? Mudguards, lights, horn. Since most ATVs feature mudguards, I also created some mudguards out of Infento seat pads. The second generation of seat pads are so much cooler for that. Anyway, I am not sure if the quad didn't even look more sexy without them. What do you think? I am looking forward to reading your comments in the comment section. The super bright LED lights steer as the wheels do. And together with the tail lights and the reflective stripes, the ride can be driven anywhere, anywhen, even in German winter nights. The only new thing is the electric 12-volt horn and its 3D printed adapter. I was easily able to reduce the horn's voltage from 12 to 6 volt per PWM for the sake of my dear neighbors. Conclusion. Now that finishes today's presentation of the quad in a nutshell. I conclude that this quad may appear fairly simple compared to other builds I presented previously, but this quad shines over other builds because it is fairly simple to build, very easy to handle, it is very robust and most of all it is super cool. In case you want to build this ATV by yourself, as 2 other followers already did, I am putting you a link for a PDF file into this video's description. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you didn't already. I look forward to seeing you again in a few weeks. Until then, stay healthy and happy building!